heard this great piece of advice from it was a filmmaker, but I took it for music. He said, consider that the film you're working on, the music, the piece of art, or whatever creative thing you're doing, is the last piece you'll ever make while you're making it. And he was speaking from an experience, because this director, which I'm sorry I can't remember the film, I'll put it somewhere in here, it had Richard Dreyfuss in it, it's from the 70s. Yeah, he was on the commentary, an older man, and he said, I didn't know when I was making that film that it would be the last film I ever made. And of course he thought, like we all do, that he had many more ahead of him. And I just took that as just such a profound piece of advice, and it was perfect to kind of set me off on making this double album, Mornings and Midnights. It set me off on the journey in the right direction. And I'll talk a little bit about that and how that inspired this album. So when I heard that piece of wisdom from that guy, I took it like a mantra, because it really hit me strong. I love little inspiring things. I collect them. But every once in a while, one of them becomes something that I'm like, okay, I'm holding on to this one for a while. And that was one that I set off making this album. And I thought the way it was going to inspire me was to become more meticulous, more careful in what I'm doing, more thoughtful in constructing the album and writing, and make sure I cover all the bases. I thought that's what it was going to do for me. But in fact, it did kind of the opposite of that, as it turned out. Because first of all, I wasn't making a double album when I started. I was probably making an EP, and then it just kept going and going. And then it turned into this big thing. It turned into a double album, accompanying artwork and an accompanying book. So it got crazy, got a little wild. Because when I digested what this guy was saying, and I kind of started my own project this way, as if it was the last piece that I would ever do, the effect it had on me was surprising, because what I started to realize is that it wasn't so much the being meticulous and careful. That was not so much my problem. My problem was that I wasn't present while making my work. I was always thinking of the next album, or when this one will get done, or the end, or how much is this going to cost, or how long is this going to take today, or are they going to show up? You know, I'm always thinking about all this stuff, but what this little piece of wisdom told me in my heart was, Ezra, be here while you're making your album. And so that's what it became, is I kind of took this advice as, you know, if this truly was my last piece, which, let's knock on something. Let's hope it's not. I've got a lot more albums planned. But if it was, I'd want to be here while I'm creating it. So instead of me becoming more meticulous and more thoughtful about sanding every little corner and everything, my wife's going to make a lot of noise here. No, go ahead, fine. Don't mind me. I'm joking. Anyways. Instead of me becoming that way, I became less that and became more about the enjoyment of being there and creating this thing. And that set off like a fire of creativity in me, that it was pretty much all recorded in the year 2024. I guess you didn't need the 20 part, but and what happened was, it just set a fire of creativity inside of me, because as I started allowing myself to really just be there, as if there was no timeline, as if there's nobody out there to give this to, but that it was just something I was doing here on earth, just creating. And as I started doing that, I quit worrying so much about being meticulous, and I worried more about the life of the part I was playing. How did I feel while I was making this? And instead of worrying if this note is just perfect in this one part, am I going to take it again? I started wondering, can I hear like myself inside of that? Am I really in that? Or did I just, distill it, all the life out of it? And as I did that, it also kind of brought out creativity all throughout my day, because I think, creativity breeds creativity. So when you start creating like this and you start really enjoying it, we're always thinking about the ends, what's it, is anybody going to like this, or is anybody going to listen to it or buy it, or, all this kind of stuff. Instead of thinking about that, if we think about, am I here? Am I enjoying this? How do I feel when I'm doing this? Am I giving something of myself to this, or am I just trying to figure out what people want? Or am I leaving like this very unique stamp of who I am right here? As I started thinking about that, it started breeding more creative days and mornings. And I have, like most people, I have a full-time job. And the reason the album's called Mornings and Midnights is because that's when it was made. It was made early mornings and midnights around my job and my family. But what happened was in the mornings, I would wake up and I got this little hipster typewriter and I started writing poetry again. I've written poetry in the past, but I started more seriously writing poetry. And poetry's cool because you really know for sure you're not writing that for anybody, because I'm sure poetry is probably the least, career path for a creative to make a living. I know there's some poets out there that do, but I'm sure it's a tough game. But anyways, when you're making poetry, it's pretty much for you in that moment. And a lot of my poetry, I did a lot of writings and journals about the creating of this album. That actually became a book that's going to come out with the album. And, I just fell into this. And then I started at night, instead of like melting my brain on Netflix, I got a pencil set and some paper, and I started learning to draw again, because it's really been, I'll have to put something up there, I don't think you can see that. It's been decades since I sat down and just drew. And so I would just sit and draw, and then I would work on music, and then I would write poetry. And it's crazy because my thing, well, I'll tell you what goes through my head constantly is, there's not enough time. You don't have enough time. I don't have enough time to do everything I want to do. I won't have time to create this or that, so I'm always like trying to plan everything out. But in this, it's almost like in a mystical way, I created so much in a year, I can't even believe it. And did well at my job, did well with my family. And it's almost like the trick is to really enjoy what you're doing and to stop worrying about, of course we all kind of know this, but the trick is to actually do that and to stop worrying about the outcomes of things. And it feeds you. It gives you energy. It gives you time that you didn't even imagine that you had. And so that's kind of like the creative side of that album. I'll talk more about what the album is, the themes of the albums and the songs and stuff. I'm doing a limited release event at the end of August, because I don't know when I'm actually going to put the album out, like for the public. I'm usually pretty slow about doing that, but you can hear it. If you come to the 28th event, I'm going to be giving it away over some days. I'll be giving tracks away, and you'll have the full album by the end of the event. And then, of course, if you're one of the early ones that requested a postcard, that is going to come, and it's going to come before the event. I just don't know how soon before the event. I'm really working to do this. If you can't read it, call me. I'll tell you what it says. Like we'll go over Zoom, and I'll try to. I can kind of read my own handwriting a little bit. So, anyways, that's all I got today. I hope you join my event, and y'all have a great day.